Welcome to another episode of Pound for Pound Box Report, episode 145. I'm your host, Michael. Joining me this week, Scorsese, YTBC fame, Daniel Carpio of the Inscriber, Gus from Corruption and Boxing. What's going on, fellas?
What's going on?
For those who are new to Pound for Pound Box Report, once again, Pound for Pound Box Report is a live YouTube show, as well as podcast and blog, discussing all things boxing. The motto is, when boxing is good, we'll talk about it. When boxing is bad, we will talk about it. Bottom line is, if it concerns boxing, we will talk about it. If you want to find more information about Pound for Pound Box Report, one main place you want to go to, that's the blog page, P4P Boxing Report, p4pboxingreport.wordpress.com is the link. If you want, check the right of the blog page. You will find links to find us on Facebook, on Tumblr, on G+. Also links to find where to listen to us on Google Play Music, on Stitcher Radio, SoundCloud, iTunes, as well as Player.fm. Let's get the show started by recapping what went down this past weekend. Headline fight, of course, is Jessie Vargas defending his WBO welterweight belt against Manny Pacquiao. Pacquiao winning by 12-round decision. Pretty much had his way, particularly over the second half of the fight. Vargas, first 5-6 rounds, I would say, he found some shots in there, particularly with the lead right hand. But you can see over the second half of the bout, Manny Pacquiao, he took control. His speed, his overall class and ability and experience paved the way in the end. Since you may have to leave early, Gus, I know you're a bit under the weather right now. I'll go to you first. Your breakdown of Pacquiao's win over Jessie Vargas. I know a lot of people were like impressed with Pacquiao. Same old Pacquiao. For me, I'll say personally, Pacquiao did what he was supposed to do. He was the superior fighter coming in. He fought an inferior opponent. So I'm not seeing all this stuff about Pacquiao being dominant and all this and that. Pacquiao did what Pacquiao was supposed to do.
You know, Mike, I was really looking forward to this fight, pre-fight, but sadly, it was not an enthralling fight for me. No, I just wasn't entertained at all. And I think it was largely due to Jessie Vargas failing to live up to his self-prophesized motto of being a throwback fighter, a fighter who would now fight in such a manner in which he would try and negate any decisions going in against him, which I find ironic as he's been gifted decisions in the past. And therefore, you know, he chose to fight more of a in one respect, he was brave to try and take the center of the ring. But in another side, he chose to barricade behind his defense, widen his stance, pour out with the jab, almost like a sentry to try and thwart Pacquiao. So he completely changed his tactics and tried to fight more of a cerebral, counter-punching stance, relying essentially on his 1-2, both from not only a counter, but sometimes from a lead. So therefore, stylistically, he made it much more difficult for Manny Pacquiao to try and break him down. But if a fighter is going to fight like that, then quite clearly, he, number one, needs hand speed and foot speed. And we know Jessie Vargas doesn't really have that. He does have the benefit of age. Number two, if he doesn't have those traits, then he needs to be a little bit more athletic. And he doesn't have that either. And three, he needs punch variety. And Jessie Vargas doesn't have that as well. His only offense was the 1-2, and sporadically he was landing it. We saw, he tried to left hook when Manny was coming inside. But, I counted about maybe 20, 25 times in which he tried to throw his left hook. And I didn't see him even land a single one. Now, I don't know if you guys actually saw him actually land a left hook, but I clearly didn't see it. I didn't see any other punch variety. I didn't see any uppercuts land from him. couple of, straight, long right hands because he had the benefit of height and reach, both to the head and body. Occasionally, they were stinging blows, but nothing concussive. And conversely, from Manny Pacquiao, now we've seen sort of an inverse relationship between his age and the amount of punch output slowly decline over the years. And I think it's his slowest output over a 12-round fight. What was it, 400 punches or something? Which, yeah, you can say it's a natural trait for fighters who are aging. So therefore, we're seeing Manny Pacquiao no longer a slugger. Now he's 100% of a boxer and almost fighting strategically, which, is so different to the Manny Pacquiao that we've gone to love, from the Manny Pacquiao that is, entertained for 15 years and dominated fights. The knockdown, now people have said it was a flash knockdown. Now that is incorrect. If you look at it carefully, Vargas actually, it was a delayed reaction to going down. And a delayed reaction generally means is when you've actually been hit by a blow quite hard. That is blood and oxygen suddenly going from all parts of your body to your head, and therefore making you light-footed, light-headed, and thus no longer having the strength to fall down. So that was actually a hurtful punch. And you could see Jessie Vargas after that, he didn't really look the same either. So it wasn't a close fight. It was a very disappointing fight. I had it 8 rounds to 4. But yeah, a very disappointing affair for me.
Would I be wrong, Gus, and I'll go to you, Scorsese and Daniel in a second. Would I be wrong, Gus, to say that Vargas would have been better off just applying pressure in his physical strength and just basically going balls to the wall against this guy Pacquiao? Because he fought that calculated strategy, and even then he landed some shots. It would have been better off, in my view, for him to just charge after Pacquiao, who, to your point, doesn't throw the amount of punches that he used to.
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. And I think what may have even happened, and I can only sort of speculate, is that for the first time, we may have seen a little bit of pressure and fear actually did to Jessie Vargas, because it was his biggest fight on pay-per-view. He's the champion. He was desperate to keep the belt. So I think strategy and methodology actually came into his head a little bit. He was thinking a little bit more. Tactics, Dewey Cooper was obviously high on tactics. And I think those actually had a factor. Because you could see it in his post-fight interview how sort of apologetic he was. But yeah, I agree with you, Mike. He should have really applied the pressure. I think he would have had a better chance. He's never been knocked out or knocked down before, so there was a degree of element to see whether he could take the punches. He took them reasonably well, but Pacquiao, I wouldn't say, had massive success in his affair. I thought Manny Pacquiao's best punch, Mike, was his jab. And he was landing his jab not from the lead. He was actually landing his jab after a combination.
As a counter.
Yeah, absolutely. It was almost a jab, like his Manila Eye sort of counter right hook. And I thought that was actually working really well. But that's a punch that you land to almost fall to your opponent as to finishing it. So all in all, a cagey fight. Yeah.
Scorsese, Daniel, your thoughts on what went down?
I actually disagree with him. I say never walk on the Manny Pacquiao, never, unless you just so skilled. This is something you do sparingly. You don't walk. He breaks eyes if you walk onto. Ask Margarito. Margarito face still lopsided. You don't do it. Don't do it. Jessie Vargas was, in my opinion, I don't care how much big he was. He fought a beautiful fight in the first half of the fight. I did feel like he was landing left hooks. Not just to a great detriment to Pacquiao, just here and there. But the jab was working for him. The right hand was there for him. But my biggest thing from what I looked at it as, Man, you just don't realize what Manny Pacquiao. I didn't what he was actually going through fighting some of these fighters. I think the loss to Floyd Mayweather was the worst thing that could happen to him, but also the best thing because we finally got it out the way. And now it's like when you look in that ring, you just realize this dude is a damn midget to those people he fighting. And for his right hand to dominate this fight with the distance he had to respect, Manny Pacquiao just a great fighter, man. This dude is great, bro. And you spend so much time telling people, look, man, he not gonna beat Floyd. He not. And they think you don't respect him or like him, and it's just no, that's not it. It's just I'm trying to tell y'all to get off that. But to everybody else, man, this dude, he's something else, man. And I agree with Gus. He did dominate that fight with his right hand. I mean, anytime Jesse started carrying the left low, and he paid for it. And I really can't remember seeing Pacquiao dominate something with his right hand. But I do think that if you walk on to him, those numbers going up. Simple as that, because they gotta go up. He gonna throw short shots. Hell, CompuBox may even miss 100 of the shots he throw in that night. I don't see the Rios numbers being low. You walk onto him, you pay.
Yeah,
It's simple as that. That man lives for this. It's the inverse of Floyd Mayweather. You apply pressure on Floyd. That's the worldwide boxing view of it. And my view on Pacquiao, you don't do that. If you got range, you sit back and you try to play the pickoff game. Jesse did it for a little while, but fighting a great fighter, man. It's simple as that.
but my problem, I will push back by saying he could look. You're right in terms of letting Pacquiao come to you because of the way Pacquiao leaps in. A lot of times with his hands down and his head exposed, and you could use smarts and guile to catch him with the counter in the same in a la Marquez fashion, and some other fighters that Pacquiao has fought. But my problem is Jessie Vargas is not that kind of fighter. He's not that skilled. He didn't have that skill set.
And
So then what?
the first few rounds, I thought he did carry it. Me and Naoto were watching together, and I said, man, Pacquiao's starting to dominate with the right hand. And he says, because Jesse's dropping his left hand. He's dropping his lead hand, and we weren't talking about skill set before the fight. I think a lot of people mentioned how many brain farts he have in the ring, and I said that's what it is. That's the brain fart he possibly had.
And the reason I say that, you noticed the first half of the bout, going into round 5, 6, and 7, how Pacquiao was darting in and darting back out, darting in and darting back out. While it was nice to see and skilled, and notice he wouldn't do that against the Marquez. Marquez would eat him alive doing that.
Correct.
And Marquez knocked him out doing that. And other fighters have taken advantage of him doing that. And Vargas was there. He was in position to take advantage, but he just couldn't. He couldn't.
Yeah.
As I said on Twitter, the reason Manny Pacquiao is darting in and jumping in and out with this dude, A, because it's Manny Pacquiao, and B, because he's fighting Jessie Vargas. Point blank, period.
Well, hey, Marquez had 4 shots to do it. You got to give Jesse his first one.
Marquez was a natural counterpuncher. I think Jesse tried to be a counterpuncher, but that's just not his natural trait in it.
And you have to keep in mind that Marquez did this against Pacquiao in all 4 fights.
Yeah, I think they understand. I think they understand, though. Like I'm telling you, you don't look. I don't really see Jessie Vargas as a come forward guy neither. I see him as a guy that's going to sit there and he's going to have to kind of trade his shot. Look, he fought the ultimate come forward guy in Margarito, so that game plan went out the window that night. Never do it again. And I just simply think him and Dewey Cooper was smart enough to say, look, we supposed to lose. Let's go the safest way to winning. And I agree with him. I agree.
Let's go to Daniel right on this. Your perspective on all of this.
What was supposed to happen happened. Pretty much. You had Manny Pacquiao just flat out dominate Jessie Vargas. Now, I got to give Jesse credit. He did land his right hand a good amount throughout the fight. But the problem is, and this is like something that I understand why Dewey Cooper did it, but You can't implement the Floyd Mayweather game plan for Manny Pacquiao if you're not Floyd Mayweather, which is what Jessie Vargas tried to do. Tried to counter, try to shock Pacquiao with the right hand, and as soon as that knockdown happened in the second round, it was over. You knew who was going to win. One of the scorecards was atrocious, 114, 113.
Nah, that fight went close to a draw.
No. And basically, yeah, what was supposed to happen happened. Remember, last year before Maypac got made, we all thought we were going to get Jessie Vargas. And we all still thought the same thing was going to happen. Manny Pacquiao was going to have his way with him. And that's what happened. He had his way with him. Now, it's not to say like some people are saying that, oh, Pacquiao's back, he's back to be dominant. No, he fought a fighter that was way below his level. And he did what he was supposed to do. It doesn't mean lick when it comes to what we're going to talk about next night, unfortunately, Mike, which is a rematch with Floyd. It doesn't mean diddly when it comes to a rematch with Floyd. All it is just Manny Pacquiao beat a guy he was supposed to beat. The only thing that probably was disappointment to people is that it wasn't a knockout. But then again, Manny hasn't knocked out anybody in the past 7 years.
Well, let's you mentioned Floyd, and I'm just going to open it up for everybody here now and the panel and the hangout. Floyd Mayweather was at ringside watching the fight, and that kicked off discussion about the possibility of a Mayweather-Pacquiao rematch. Bob Arum, when asked about the fight, said it's 75% possibility that the fight will happen. For anybody, your thoughts on all this? I don't see the point of a rematch. For me, Floyd beat him the first time. He would beat him again. But there's a lot of money in this bout. So it's a chance that the fight will happen. Go ahead, Scorsese.
Just one response to Daniel. I'm gonna say about that. He said he don't think Manny is back. I'm gonna say this about the size and every other fighter in boxing. I think Manny was like at a 5-inch height. This is how y'all know how much it was
between Manny and who?
Jesse. Yeah, it was like 5-inch height.
Right. Vargas is like 5'9". No, he's not even 5'11". I'll say he's maybe 5'9". While Manny is like 5'5", 5'6".
4 or 5-inch height disadvantage in this match. I don't think many champions can overcome that versus, Manny's not a champion, but hell, he's a champion. I don't think many champions can overcome that in a division. I really don't. When somebody like Vargas has been seeing people not take his punches, getting the kind of confidence he got, I think Manny Pacquiao has a good case to say, I could beat anybody at welterweight. He just need to stop. Well, not just need to stop chasing Floyd Mayweather, but hell, you can't tell a man stop chasing what is it, $100 million maybe or whatever. And if they do make the fight, since I'm talking, I go ahead and say this. I support it. It's the two legends of our era. I'm not gonna say it'll kill boxing. People know what they're getting when they watch it. They want it so long. They know Floyd's defensive. The question has always been, can the offense of Manny Pacquiao open up the defense of Floyd Mayweather? It cannot be a disappointment because you already knew what it was going to be for 5 years, or the first year, second year, or the third year. It's going to make big money. People going to come out. It's going to be big build up. The only thing they need to do this time is I don't want to see Lomachenko versus what was this guy from again? I ain't sure. I don't want to see Leo Santa Cruz versus where was this guy from again? I ain't sure. I want to see somebody get some real run on the card like Matisse versus Danny or something like that. That's the only mistake they can't make this time. Put somebody on the undercard and get them the right shine and, do it again, man. It's a 50th fight for Floyd Mayweather. I ain't tripping. Good for them.
I'll go to you, Gus, and then you, Daniel. Is this about money? Is this about money here? Especially when you can see, considering that Pacquiao only got has been reported a $4 million guarantee only for the fight against Vargas.
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. When you've been receiving 15, 20 million per fight for the last 10 years, and you're suddenly seeing a depreciation of your wages to that sort of level, especially when you're in the position now where you're almost complaining about your civil service salary, and thus you have the potential to fight for an exorbitant amount what you were used to before, then yeah, you're going to be craving for that. It's law of simple economics here. Fighters who have set that precedent at that sort of magnitude, are they going to fight for anything less? Yeah, they can sort of build it up. I mean, I've talked about this fight, Mike. I always felt a second fight was going to happen, specifically due to the money that generated in the first fight, even though it was a massive disappointment, but they can build up the narrative to the second one. I'm sure folks will probably want to see Manny Pacquiao's pictures in surgery, having shoulder rehabilitation, just to sort of digest that there was some sort of a legitimate injury at hand, so they can sort of push on that narrative and get the fight done. But to me, it's going to be a waste of time, because a cerebral Manny Pacquiao is not going to have absolutely any chance. You're going to need a pre-2009 Manny Pacquiao throwing 700 punches. We were talking about this sort of jumping, when he's at that sort of jumping up and down, almost like an attack wave, like a wasp. You in one side you might have the negligence and the vulnerability in the ability to be encountered, because he's a little bit too aggressive, too excited. But on the other side, that's when he's the most dangerous, when he's just in and out, sporadic attacks. And that is the only Manny Pacquiao that can now defeat athletes of Floyd Mayweather or even a young prime Terence Crawford. I can't see a 400-punch Manny Pacquiao defeating those guys.
You're going to need the Pacquiao that blitzkrieg, that blitzed Miguel Cotto, Miguel Cotto, to the point that he made him quit. He made him quit that night.
Absolutely. Busted him up periodically. That fight should have been even all over by around 6, 7, 8.
I mean, he destroyed and annihilated Cotto that night. And he destroyed and annihilated De La Hoya. That Manny Pacquiao, we have not seen in years.
A De La Hoya quitting because he's just been busted up. Have you ever seen that before? Nope.
But people will push back and say that every Marquez fight the output dropped though. So anytime he had to fight somebody that was, a counterpuncher, a thoughtful fighter, or I know the Dante at least pushes this point a lot. And, he didn't put it in my head, but I know popularly he pushes this a lot to say, we don't really know what Pacquiao is because some of the circumstances to his fights. De La Hoya, he saw wounded prey. He saw it. De La Hoya admit that he was it. Cotto, he saw it. He dropped left hands in that gut all night of a fighter that was, probably drained for the weight. So Manny, look, I just wonder, can a great fighter reinvent himself tonight? He does it night in, night out to me. When you got to fight people and you at this kind of disadvantage, he kind of reinvent himself night in, night out. I give a man a chance, man. Floyd, only human. Let's see,
Not at 37 with 60, nearly 70 fights. Unless Floyd gets old that night.
Manny Pacquiao he still got a chance. He heard him twice. He still has a chance. He think he does. He's gonna get paid. They're gonna show up. I think I pick Floyd, but I'm not gonna count out Manny Pacquiao. I respect the man. I respect him.
Your thoughts on all this, Daniel?
It was going to happen because it's simple economics. Because unfortunately, Manny Pacquiao is now in the Philippines where MC Hammer was in his prime. I'm going to music on this, but MC Hammer, when he was in his prime, going on tours, the running joke was half of Oakland was in his payroll because it was in his concerts. That's what Manny Pacquiao is right now. He has so many people, so many endeavors that he puts out money for, that it isn't simply, I just want another big paycheck because I make the big bucks. It's, I need another paycheck because I'm stretching myself too thin. And yes, $9,000 a year in a state senator salary is not going to cut it. That's one thing. And number two, the only way they're going to market this, and Steve Kim actually made a very, very good point about this. The rematch is not going to be marketed anywhere near towards casual fans. That bridge is burned to a crisp. It would be geared towards hardcore fans. And they're going to try to make it probably another $100 pay-per-view. They're probably going to give us another crap undercard, unfortunately, Scorsese. But the question they're going to have for the rematch, because it's going to turn out the same way. Floyd's going to win. The question is going to be, how many people will actually buy? Because I actually asked this question to Joe Francis on Monday. And I'll ask it for all three of you guys. Not when this rematch is announced, and when you see the pay-per-view prices, will you watch it?
Nope. Not for no $100. Nope.
No, not the question. Remember, I didn't say the question is will you buy it. The question is will you watch it?
Ah, gotcha.
Everybody will watch it.
Yeah,
I can't help it. I can't help it. I'm going to pay for it.
That's the thing that was raised. And that's the thing Steve Kim raised up. His scenario is Facebook Live will crash because of that fight. Because he legitimately put up a screenshot of somebody that sent to him, somebody streaming that fight, the Pacquiao Vargas fight, via Facebook Live.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw that.
And that's exactly to me what's going to happen to me. People are going to watch it, but people are just not going to buy it. But the problem is there's going to be enough people to buy it where even if it's half of what Maypac 1 was, which is $4 million, it'll still be a very lucrative pay-per-view. And it's technically more of an indictment on the sport that this fight, a rematch that literally almost no hardcore fan legitimately wants to see, it's still technically the biggest fight that can be made in the sport.
I'm not over the aura of seeing those two men in the ring together. I'm still not over it. I would do it again immediately. I'm gonna keep it all the way real. Those two took 5 years to get in the ring, and they dominated within those 5 years. And when they got in there, I saw Manny Pacquiao have his parts. I saw Mayweather adjust, first lead and then adjust to what Manny Pacquiao was doing. And I want to see it. Shit.
That's why I said almost Scorsese. But that's not the sentiment in a lot of hardcore heads. A lot of hardcore heads don't want to see this fight just because of the damage.
They're trying to fit in.
They're not trying to fit in. It's the damage that the fight is still doing to the sport economically.
Oh, no.
Think about this. Since that fight in the United States, there has not been a single boxing pay-per-view that has done 1 million buys. The closest one was Canelo Cotto.
But it wasn't one prior to that for a good while. So that would be my pushback to that. Unless you're saying a fight like that should, but I can agree right here, a fight like that should progress the sport. But that was like that was scored our Super Bowl. I wonder if we go back to, let's say, De La Hoya. Nah, De La Hoya was in his prime when that fight happened, so his fights did 1 million the next few times, likely or close to. But we just don't have the stars yet. And Cotto, Canelo, they were both big names, but they were not Trinidad Oscar. I told people that before the fight, like they don't seem invincible as those two seem right then. Cotto was kind of out of it. What they do, 900,000. Canelo ain't fighting the right people. We still got Canelo Triple G that people think's gonna do too many. I think it does less than Cotto Canelo, to be honest with you, because I just don't think Triple G's that guy name wise. But we just don't have the stars yet. Those guys, it's just like the pound for pound list. boxing's being recreated right now, in my opinion. So it's sort of a way, sort of a way.
Let's move on and talk about some of the fights on this undercard. I want to talk about Jessie Magdaleno upsetting Nonito Donaire. I'm gonna go to you on this one, Scorsese.
I'm glad you're coming.
Good fight, very good fight. For me, I just think that Magdaleno, he grabbed the advantage early with his movement in the middle rounds. Donaire came on, but ultimately for me, it was Donaire's the fact that he is incapable of really being a guy who hunts folks down, who knows how to really cut off the ring and really savagely attack the body. That proved to be his downfall at the end of the day, because there were opportunities where he really could have went after Magdaleno. I mean, really, really hard. But there were times during this fight where he kind of let Magdaleno off the hook. He let Magdaleno get too comfortable in there. And when Donaire finally came on, it was a little bit too little too late. The scores were a bit wider than I thought. 118, 110, 116, 112 on two of the scorecards. Only had him winning by a couple of points. But I still thought that Magdaleno won this fight. I know Dan Rayfield, ESPN, saying it was basically a draw and it deserves a rematch, and Donaire asked for a rematch afterwards.
Actually, gave it to Donaire 7-5. He gave it to Donaire.
Right. Your thoughts on it? How good the fight was? Do you think Donaire won? Your breakdown.
7-5 Donaire, and I am ashamed of the way Jessie Magdaleno fought. I say this all the time. You're the bigger, younger man. You're in there holding. Tony Weeks ought to be ashamed of himself in that fight. Anytime Donaire, a man trains eight weeks, or how many ever they train, they come, they put their title on the line. A guy runs from him. Because that's what he was doing, in my opinion. He was getting away from him. He's moving. You don't want to call it running, fine. I don't call it that either, but I'm just saying that he's running from him. Then when Donaire gets there and he's ready to work, what did this big back 122-pound guy who has missed the 122-pound weight about 4 times, what does he do? He reaches out, holds all night. And Tony Weeks says nothing, does nothing. The right hand is working for Donaire. I think he's breaking the distance well when he's on the front foot. He is getting caught with some shots, but I just felt like when he was coming forward, a lot of times he saw those shots, and just the athlete he is, he was able to break the range, get back to what he was doing. I felt like Jessie Magdaleno fought beautifully probably every 2 or 3 rounds, where he was really sitting down on his count. He would move. As soon as Donaire opened up, he opened up. He'd move again, Donaire open up, he'd open up, and he would win those rounds for me handily. I would say, now he's looking nice. I followed Magdaleno fighting nobodies. I've seen him doing it. I knew this was gonna be a good fight, but I did not expect, the way that you were gonna take the left hook away. What's to hold him all night? You the bigger man, you the younger man, you the more prime fighter.
You don't think he could have done more to essentially bully this dude? Because I do.
Who, Donaire?
Yeah.
No, Magdaleno is the stronger man. He is strong. He's a big. You don't see the back on that dude.
He was coming down in weight. Yeah, he's the bigger man.
He is strong. I mean, Donaire went to 26, but went to 26.
The reason I say that, Scorsese, because Donaire was the harder puncher. When he landed clean onto this dude, he got his attention.
Yes, that's the point. That's my point. He knew that, and that's why he was hugging the hell out of him. And it was, you know what? And the reason I was so mad about the fight, because people going to unjustly go and say, this fella's washed up. This fella don't want. I said, what are you supposed to do? I mean, it kind of takes credit from everybody that beat Donaire the right way, or everybody that gave him a tough fight, because I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I mean, Tony Weeks, I was so angry at him. Bradley and Stephen A. Smith, the way Stephen A. Smith was talking to the fans that was scoring the fight, and that was bothering me. On top of that, they don't know what they're talking about. They don't know what they're talking about.
Stephen A. Smith, I'm not going to be a hater here. I'm not going to knock his hustle, but this isn't his lane. This is not his lane. I got ticked off the way he was talking to Tim Bradley at times as if he knew more about the sweet science than Tim Bradley or Brian Kenny.
Mm-hmm. Correct. I don't mind it being his lane because the name. It's just that sometimes just turn that knob back and like you said, just let them do that part.
It drew attention away from the fight, Scorsese. That's my thing.
Yes. I personally, I'll go back to the breakdown. The right hand of Donaire to me won the fight. The times when he did touch him, I think he hurt him twice in early in one round. I think it was the 8th or the 9th after he had got hurt. And we seen the major difference. Donaire got hurt, what he do? He said, bring it on, young warrior. Give me what you got. The young warrior unleashed. The old man hurt him, and it wasn't no bring it on, old man. It was give me a hug. Your tie looks nice. Your suit is nice. Look at this suit. He was holding them that tight every time. Then later in the round, it happened again. He got hurt right at the bell. I went 7-5. I thought the aggression was very effective. He had no answer beside the reach out and hold, except for the rounds. He took 2 or 3 rounds of fight. And if they do it again, I mean, I don't know if I want to see it if he's going to do the same method. You know, I don't know. But I think a great fighter got his belt took unjustly that night.
Your thoughts on this, Gus, and then Daniel?
Mike, essentially, I agree with a lot of parts that Scorsese has alluded to. We have a universally defined criteria for scoring boxing. It's not subjective. It's not about what you like. There is a criteria that has been in place for many a year. And clearly in that fight, we saw that Donaire had hurt Magdaleno numerous times, not only early on, but in the latter, middle, and in the latter parts. Now, it doesn't matter if Magdaleno's firing off 3-punch flashy combinations and then pulling off to the side as he does. Donaire absorbed those punches very well. He never clinched, he never held. He took them, he covered up, and he came right back. So under a scoring criteria, it's loaded. We know in effective punches, clean punches, defense and ring generalship. We know that, and Donaire landed the more effective punches because he hurt Magdaleno, and Magdaleno was trying to hold him. So quite clearly, it doesn't matter if it's 8 punches for or 2 punches against. If he lands two of the most effective punches that is his opponent, the round is his. It's as simple as that. But now I'm going to try and avoid a dichotomy in my sort of argument, but I've been sort of breaking down Donaire's record, and we know that historically, Nonito Donaire does not do well against opponents who he is walking down. His power and his effectiveness is better when he's on the back foot. He tends to generate more power, I find, and I've been...
When he stands at a distant mid-range or outside pot-shotting dudes.
Yeah, and we know he's, when you look at, Navias, Matabola,
even Vasquez Jr., yes.
Yeah, when he's actually on the front foot, we know he's not the best at cutting off the ring. He likes to counter punch. He likes to set those traps when opponents are coming to him. We saw that even with Vic Darchinyan was giving him a hell of a lot of trouble, but eventually he came through with his monster left hook and knocked him out. So he has that ability, and here his effective punches was his straight right hand, and he was working very well. He couldn't seem to time his left hook, which he wanted to, because Magdaleno was very quiet. He was semicircling, pulling out on the right to try and sort of avoid it. He didn't stray too much in the attack. He was very slick. Magdaleno is reasonably heavy-handed as well. He had a very good game plan. I really don't know with the scoring. When I watched it, I had it. I actually had it 115, 140 into Donaire.
Real quick. I'm not against holding. I just felt like too much was going on
Strategically,
throughout
it's fine.
the
Yeah,
time frame.
absolutely. Yeah, I agree. That is, you got to resort to some of these, tactics sometimes to get through a fight. Absolutely, but persistent holding, yeah, there was certainly a pretext for certainly some warnings at least.
Yeah.
Your view of this fight, Daniel?
I have tend to have agreed a lot with the judges. I understand the point, but Magdaleno really beat Donaire. Granted, he beat him in a way I didn't think he would beat him. I picked him to win because I thought he was going to take it to a brawl. And Donaire was going to happily oblige him, but he legitimately outboxed him. He did enough because when I saw Donaire doing most of that fight was just trying to land the left hook too much, trying to wind it up too much, and then Magdaleno noticing that and readjusting the distance enough to where he just whips air. Now, Donaire tried. I said there's a sequence in the fourth fight where Donaire legitimately had Magdaleno in the corner trying to bully him there, but 5 seconds later, Magdaleno turned him. He beat him by outboxing him. It was pretty clear. And if people want to say they judge the face, yeah, judge Magdalena's face and judge Donaire's face. Who looked more hurt? Now, can you say that it was a little bit of home? Yes, absolutely. I can agree with that. But I think the right man won for the fight. And ultimately, Magdaleno now has a title in the division that could be pretty wide open. He could have unless he fights Rigondeaux, then he's just food then for Rigondeaux.
He's food for Guzman too.
Guzman, like Quigg, I could see Quigg.
He went to 26. He got out of there. He took the the tickets Rigo was selling and got out of there. The discounted tickets.
Yeah, he's got to fight potentially Ray Vargas, and I tell you, that's no easy fight.
As far as the face comment from Daniel, I would have to say, Nonito's been in those wars. Yeah, Rigo left him with his signature move he does, whatever that shit is that has people sitting in the corner with swollen eyes and everything else. So as far as the face comment, just the old man versus the young man, I know we're not judging on that, but that's just jumped into my head. But I didn't agree with how I didn't agree with how you thought Jessie was gonna win. I actually saw Jessie being the guy that I've seen him fight so much, and I know his pedigree. I knew he was gonna be doing the boxing. I just didn't know at some point that for the most part, it was gonna be is nasty. I thought he was gonna be trying to be a little cleaner than that, but hey, he got the victory. They do it again. I watch it again. Hopefully we don't get Tony Weeks because Tony Weeks, man. I don't know, man. I'm sorry, I don't know. I've seen him be too. I seen him be too aggressive with his calls in some fights. Other fights, dude just said nothing like he was ready to go to the dressing room.
Let's move on. Another fight, Oscar Valdez beating a guy by the name of Osawa. He had his way with this guy. He did whatever he wanted. Stopped him in 7th round. I'm going to go to you, Gus. Not just the fight itself, but I want to talk about Oscar Valdez, the fighter. You hold him in high regard as a fighter. The question I'm going to put to you is, based on what you've seen from him, do you think that already right now he can sit there and compete, not just compete, but has a good chance of winning against the top dogs at 126 pounds?
I may have to put my prognostications a little bit in check, Mike, after that performance, because I was not overly impressed. And first things, I know Scorsese's been lambasting Tony Weeks. Vic Dracula, whoever the referee was, man, he should be hit with a sledgehammer to the kneecap because that was a ridiculous stoppage. He had no jurisdiction stopping that fight. That was well premature. If a fighter's got you trapped in the corner and he's just winging away punches left, right, and center, if you can't move out and he was clearly trapped, the only thing you can do is just cover up. And that's what Hasavi was doing. So, you've got to take your licks sometimes and to see if you come back. And he showed before that he was able to take the punches or bite a knockdown. So I thought that was a little bit premature. But Valdez, Mike, in this particular fight, what to me was very, very frustrating was that he was well underutilizing his jab. And that says to me that he's not quite ready. Because his jab is I don't know what you thought, but I think he's got a brilliant jab. Because what he does when he throws it, his motion is forward. He brings his left foot forward, so he almost carries that trajectory going forward as well, and he streamlines his body so he doesn't get caught on the counter when he's jabbing. It's really one of the best jabs I've seen, certainly from a young fighter, and underutilizing it. To me, he was just generating just a little bit too much torque, loading up on his punches. He's almost throwing the kitchen sink with almost every punch. I think he's got to learn a little bit more to sort of vary not only the speed and power of his shots to prevent from being a little bit too predictable. And if he's a little bit too wide and loading up in his punches, he's either going to get muscle damage. 2, he's going to either get fatigued if you come up against a very good fighter like a Frampton, who's able to use more of his speed. He's a little bit more of a elusive boxer. So you'd think that he's not going to stay too much in the pocket. So if Valdez is trying to load up, he's going to fatigue very quickly. We know he's super fit, super fit, but you can't be winging away punches like that for too long. And Frampton is very clever as well, so he'll understand his rhythmic patterns in what he's doing. And Valdez better punches he was having is when he was a little bit more relaxed, when he almost set the trap with his jab and he fired that almost of a sort of a check left hook, a little bit more relaxed where he wasn't too winging away. And that had the knockdown. So that almost said to me, he's almost better when he's fighting a little bit more relaxed.
You don't think he was just he was nervous because it was his first title defense, because he had he was in a spotlight situation on a big time a pay-per-view, and because of that, I'm not gonna say a lack of. There was a lacking of discipline there, because in other fights, you've seen him have the discipline. You've seen him more smooth out in his attack, in his approach against an opponent.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Chris Avalos fight is where he was.
So for me, I will give him a pass in this fight, in this particular fight.
Yeah, he's still a young man, but the good thing about him, Mike, is that he's a level-headed fighter. He's a disciplined fighter, strong-willed, motivated, and he'll definitely learn from this. And he's the fighter who will not fight with pride. He'll sit down, and I'm sure his corner and even Bob Arum will say, "Look, you've almost got to fight a little bit differently when you're fighting against you can't fight in the same style against every single fighter. You're not going to be able to blow them out. So you're almost going to have to pace yourself, discipline yourself, vary your tactics." And I think he will definitely implement that. So I guess for his next few fights, Mike, certainly no unification straight away. There's no rush with him. He will definitely get better because he has that impetus to get better. I mean, I've seen him get better, and I've seen him fight live when I was in London as well. So I've seen his journey, seen what he was like before. He was real raw before, when he was an 18, 19-year-old. He didn't even have that jab before. He was just pretty much up on his toes, winging away punches. Very exciting, almost of a slug inside fighter. He's developed his foot speed, so I can see what he's doing slowly but surely. So hopefully with the right amount of matchmaking, a year, 2 years, I think, he'll probably be the real deal then.
Scorsese, Daniel, your thoughts on Oscar Valdez at this point of his career after watching this fight with Amasa, excuse me if I pronounce his name wrong, Osawa.
Osawa. Yeah. First, I agree with when you interjected and told Gus about where he was at and what he was trying to get done. I haven't seen too many Asian fighters get in there and give up or quit. Except for the one that Donaire brought over here that one time. He was disgrace. I can't remember his name. Fought him on HBO. But I was talking, like I said, I was talking Naoto during the fight, and I said, you know what, this is gonna be a 2-round fight. Then I thought about, I said, no, these dudes don't. You got to save them from themselves. You just seen this Asian man get knocked out the ring versus I think it's pronounced Travansky. I'm not sure. 140-pound champion, the Russian, and this man got his ass back in that ring for nothing for 3 more seconds, but he decided to do that. So I just like watched the beating and understood what was going on. He felt he didn't have something in front of him, and he threw big shots. He threw them time after time, put on a, I guess you could say, impressive performance for if you understand what's going on. Exciting performance to say the least. So he's gonna be in that mix. He's already in that mix. I don't think 2 or 3 years. The way he dispatched of Gradovich. And like, did somebody say Avalos? I didn't know he fought Avalos.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did, didn't he? He fought him
He was
before
magnificent.
Gradovich.
Yeah, that was probably one of his better performances. Yeah.
Yeah, this kid, he ready now. I watch him train. I watch Valdez train. He's one of the more hard workers that Top Rank put up on their Twitter feed, and I saw that, and I went to YouTube. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna find more. And he get it in. So I mean, I'm a believer right now. I just felt like, hey, the dude saw food. He went to work. No, nothing else to just break down in it. He went to work.
Your thoughts, Daniel?
Honestly, this fight should have happened in New Mexico. This should have been reserved for Oscar Valdez's quote-unquote homecoming, high defense in the real home crowd, because we knew this was going to happen. Almost every fight that happened in this card, we knew what was going to happen. And it pretty much happened. Valdez, yeah, got a little bit of a nick because Osawa landed some good punches, but eventually he overwhelmed them. Now, I disagree with Gus in that sense when it came to the stoppage a little bit, just a little bit, because when it comes to that particular stop, I figured it'd probably be 5 seconds too late, 5 seconds too early, because ultimately Valdez was going to do that. He was going to pummel him inside. He was going to form an activity, and ultimately that was going to happen. Now, the question is going to be in reality, you asked it, is he now good enough to be stepped up into play? Like, if you give him against Lee Selby, I'm still going to pick Oscar Valdez. Now, against Gary Russell, I don't know, because the hand speed of Russell's is just ooh.
You still better pick Oscar Valdez. There you go.
Well, I don't know. If it was Lomachenko, then I would say yeah. If he had Lomachenko's overall skill, I would say yeah. But Valdez is not there yet. He can get there. He's not there yet. And ultimately, I think what's going to wind up happening, because the only other fight is what? Lee Selby, Gary Russell, and Carl Frampton.
Yeah, from what I've heard, looking at a possible fight. They want a fight against the Frampton Santa Cruz winner. Maybe the winner of Cuellar, Mars. A possible fight with Lee Selby.
Lee Selby's probably the best option, because right now the winners of Frampton Santa Cruz 2 and Cuellar Mares are going to be ordered to fight each other by the WBA. So that was out of the window. So Lee Selby's probably the best option, but
at least for now, WBA.
Ultimately, like I said, but ultimately though, we all know where this is going to head. This is going to head to him versus Jojo Diaz.
Yeah.
That path has been made a long time. There's too many similar stories. There's too many similarities. The only difference is that Jojo Diaz right now is, huh?
What weight is Diaz?
He's a featherweight as well.
He's featherweight.
Yeah.
He's a featherweight.
Excuse me.
And,
Think they
and
do it
Diaz
without
beat
either
him
one?
in,
You think they
Diaz
do it
beat him
without
in the
Diaz having the
amateurs.
title?
Diaz beat him in the amateurs, yeah. Did beat him in the amateurs. And like I said, and Diaz has shown a steadier progression a little bit than Valdez. Now, that's balancing the type of opponents that Diaz was facing. But he keeps showing a little bit more better improvement. He has a chance to show it, I think, on the Hopkins Kovalev undercard. Sorry, not that, the Hopkins Smith Jr. quote undercard.
Let's go, Smith Jr.
Yeah. So we're gonna have to wait and see. But like I said, Valdez looked impressive. He looked impressive, but it wasn't anything really unexpected.
I'll just touch on this final fight for anybody who wants to talk about it. Zhu Shiming winning a world title against a Thai fighter named Pop Vron, 12-round decision. I mean, look, I know this means that with a title, Shiming is going to be a star, particularly in China, and he's going to be a money guy. But at the same time, look, he beat a guy who he beat easily early in his career. He beat him easily in this fight. And, you know, it only goes so far with Shiming for me because he's clearly a level below in terms of the flyweight rankings. Yes, I know Gonzalez has moved up. Yes, I know Gallo Estrada has moved up, excuse me. But even among the lot still there, to me, he's a level below Ioka. Even a guy who doesn't have a world title, who I think will win that vacant title from that Gonzalez gave up, Nawapam, the Thai fighter, from what I've seen, he would beat Shiming. So I understand his win, but I look at the overall bigger picture. He's not elite. Anybody want to comment?
Well, you pretty much nailed it right on the head because this is going to be the cash cow for Bob Arum in Asia for a while. Because yes, he won a title he had no right to actually be contending.
And let me mention Daniel Nietes, who moved up recently to flyweight at 2 flyweight. If he fights Nietes will school him easily.
No, that's the thing. There's Nietes. There's still Brian Valori out there who just signed with Titan Promotions. So that's ultimately going to be the story of Zhou Shiming because Bob Arum is going to stash him away in China for a while now. He's going to make sure he doesn't get the fight with Nietes. He's going to try to get him easy opponents because he looked cute when Shiming was like doing Baldo punches and the Ali shuffle. But then if you tell somebody, he beat this guy the same way before, it loses a bit of the good taste out of your mouth. So ultimately, what can you say? What can you say about it? And this is the part where I need to rail against the announce team. I forgot who's the one that said it, but who's the one that suggested that then Shiming is ready for Chocolatito?
I can't remember.
Because whoever did it is just asking for Shiming to be thoroughly and everly humiliated.
No, he don't.
Because that's what will happen.
He don't want to mess with any of the top dogs at 115. I mean, just stop it. No, you don't want to mess with Gonzalez. You don't want to mess with Estrada. You don't want to mess with Quadras. You don't want to mess with Anui. You don't want to mess with Concepcion.
Calyafai, any of them.
So just no.
But in
Um,
one respect, Mike, it would actually be good if he moved up to 115 because he's a big name. He brings the biggest nation behind him, a huge promotion company behind him, a television network behind him. So it can only generate a little bit more
yeah.
shine and sort of spotlight to the 115 ranks. And
For that matter, he
obviously,
don't want to mess with Mick Williams Arroyo at flyweight or 115.
He doesn't want to mess with either of the Arroyo brothers. Neither one. McWilliams or McJoe.
yeah,
But-
well, Bob, Top Rank is going to have to pay step-aside money to Donnie Nientes because he's next in line now for him.
Yeah, he is. He is. Oh, no. If he's going to do 115, just for the sake of geopolitics, just have him face Inoue.
Ooh.
And just have Inoue destroy him.
Ooh. Because, yeah, Japan and China versus China. Ooh. That would be a little bit scary, to be honest.
That'll be some Bruce Lee Fist of Fury stuff.
Yeah, that would be kind of scary from outside the ring perspective. That fight was, ooh.
Well,
and where are you going to have that fight? That's my question. Where?
You need to have it. Well, we can't have it in the U.S. because we are now ourselves locked in a political shitstorm because of what happened on Tuesday.
Man, listen.
But
Trump won't give a visa and knew it to come over, man.
No, he's not. No, and well, the puppet masters that are behind Trump will, just because Japan, for all that you can say about their weirdness, like they have weird taste, their anime's weird, they have weird taste and everything. There's still a world power economy, and quite frankly, their technology is still years ahead of ours.
Yeah.
So,
and Trump
still need
idiosyncratic racism towards Japan, big time.
Oh, it's gonna be hilarious because they need to have to fight then, like somewhere like in Mexico.
Yeah, they will have to have it because I don't see where they could have that kind of. Ooh, no, it would be too much of a possible Zhao Shiming and Oya Inoue fight. Ooh, it would be too much of a fight in terms of location, and then all the geopolitical backdrop. Yeesh, that would be tough.
But that's what you bring. That's what you bring when somebody suggests that this guy is Oshiming, like say who you mentioned, Mike, is a level below who's left at junior flyweight, to be able to say he's ready to challenge who many consider to be the pound for pound best fighter in the world now, Chocolatito. This is what you bring.
Indeed. I want to move on to some news here. I'm going to separate the news here. I'm going to go to you on this one, Gus. Frequent guest of the show, Jacob Rivera. I first heard this report from him. It looks like quite possibly your favorite fighter right now, Alexander Usyk. He's going to make his first title defense on the undercard of Hopkins Joe Smith. And this will be a short turnaround following his win. Title win in September. Your thoughts, Gus?
Yeah, he's going to be fighting in Inglewood, I believe.
Yes.
Against Mushoe, the South African fighter. And I think it's a very, very good opponent. Folks may not have seen this fighter, but he's a very technically accomplished, slick, a very, very good fighter who fought against. I know he was having some success against Ilunga Makubu, who Tony Bellew fought for the Vraken Cruiserweight Championship. He was systematically beating Makubu up for the first 5-6 rounds, if I recall. Got a little bit frustrated, and I think it was ultimately fatigue that did him. And we saw Makubu land, sort of rebound the second half of the fight But the only problem with this fight, Mike, is that we're sure his height. I'm not sure what BoxRec and the other bodies have him, but I think he can't be more than 5'8", 5'9". And I would strongly say I think he's maybe even about 5'8". Now up
Oh
against
wow!
Usyk,
Who's
yeah,
6'3", 6'3", 6'4", isn't he?
yeah, yeah. You know, I mean, Usyk is legitimately, yeah, definitely 6'3". You know that's not exaggerated either. Now the question is, you know, how is he going to get inside an athlete that sort of height and reach, but as somebody who moves well on his feet and with that sort of jab as well? It's going to be difficult. He's certainly going to have to dig deep into all of his skills, but he definitely does have the skills. So a good fight, great to see Usyk, you know, in the United States, because a boxer with that sort of ability, but he also has the personality, which I guess we haven't seen too much. But you know, I've seen a lot of him sort of in the Ukraine and the US on the amateur bills, and we obviously speak to Mr. Bashir as well a lot. And you know, he actually has got a tremendous personality as well. So hopefully we can see that as well in the US. So yeah, great news all around.
I'll go to you on this one, Daniel. A lot of scuttlebutt in terms of Joseph Parker, Andy Ruiz fight not happening in New Zealand. We find out now that it's going to happen in New Zealand. The fight is basically set up official, and who do we have to thank? Burger King of all folks. Some backdrop on this.
Well, Burger King has been a pretty strong supporter of Joseph Parker throughout. Like, they've been a sponsor of a lot of his fights. And when it looked like the public money wasn't going to be there more in this fight, that's when the talk started that maybe this fight's not going to be in New Zealand. Maybe this fight's going to be in the U.S. in January, because for some reason Top Rank didn't want to pair it with Crawford Molina. But then, like I said, Burger King, longtime sponsor of Parker's, stepped up to the plate, put up the money they needed to launch that fight. It's going to be in New Zealand. It's going to be December 10th. There's a good chance that HBO will still pick up the rights to it, because it's going to be 12, maybe 12, maybe 13 hours ahead of us and East Coast for timing. So they're definitely going to have to do a tape delay.
But you know how boxing Twitter is. Somebody will find a way to put that live stream up.
Oh no, yeah, somebody's going to find light. Somebody's going to stay up, because somebody's going to be up in the morning doing it, because this fight will likely be like what, the 10, 11, maybe midnight there in New Zealand. So it'll be noon, 11 o'clock in the morning here. So that ultimately is going to be an interesting fight, because say what you want about Andy Ruiz not legitimately having been tested enough, but this is more about Joseph Parker. Can Joseph Parker, even if it's home, step into the limelight and not let the limelight of challenging for a world title, however the circumstances became that he got it, ultimately finish the deal, gain a title, and pretty much breed a new ground for champions? Because think about it, that'll mean for the first time in a long time, three of the heavyweight belts are handed by three separate people, and none of them are named Klitschko. Now the WBA is a different situation, because that fight's going to happen soon with Joshua. But think about that. When's the last time we legitimately had three the four major heavyweight belts be held by three different people, and none of them were a Klitschko brother.
You're right. I'll go to you on this one, Scorsese. About a month or so ago, there was a lot of rumors and talk about a possible fight between Jacobs and Triple G. Jacobs basically said no and gave a reason, which I found to be BS. On December 10th, the date was. We now find out that Terrence Crawford is going to be fighting on that date against. I want to say Eric Molina. Not Eric Molina.
John Molina.
John Molina. Your thoughts about this? Terrence Crawford coming back to the ring. Easy work for him.
Too easy to work. I've been sort of getting ripped for my view on the fight. Some people push back to the opinion that I think Terrence Crawford was right in the running for fight of the year had he beat a Felix Diaz, had he beat a Rances Bartholomew, two-time champion, all people he had the ability to make the fight with. And something even bigger for me, the BWAs, they granted him the fighter of the year for 2014. Correct, in the ring did not. They gave it to Sergey Kovalev. But as far as the BWAs go, I remember a list I saw.
And for those who don't know, BWA is Boxing Writers Association of America, I believe.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think I get the last two A's mixed up. But anyways, Crawford could have won this award 2 times in 3 years, and I'll reel off the name of people that did do this and see why you want to be in that company, because it's you got Carmen Basilio, who may be the least known on the list. You got Joe Frazier, excuse me, Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray Leonard, Marvin Hagler, Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield, Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather, and it should have been Terrence Crawford. He should have. Why would you mess that up? You know, you're not the big star that we want you to be. As far as paper, well, I ain't gonna say we want you to be that you shown to be in Omaha. So what you could start doing is just saying, you know what? Well, yeah, I should be that. Here's why I should be. Mention me alongside those names, and I really feel like that. If you were coming off a horrible year, go ahead, make it another horrible fight. Come back strong the next year. But if you're coming off a year, you unify something, get that shit again, get that award again. This year would have been more impressive than the year he actually won it. He would have unified belt. He would have beat a champion this year. And if you beat Bartholomew, you beat a former two-time champion, undefeated. You beat Felix Diaz. Look, that may be a hardcore win, but for me, I'm giving you fight of the year. Andre Ward or Sergey Kovalev, they don't outdo you right there. They just don't. They don't.
Oh, a question. What do you think? This is kind of, not as serious, but what do you think about Angel Garcia on video when asked by the boxing voice about Terrence Crawford saying he's not a real fighter, that is hypocritical, folks going after my son's opponent when he's fighting this guy, and that Crawford is not a real champion, and his son Danny would beat his ass in the ring, blah blah blah. Your thoughts on all that?
I didn't know what the hell Angel was talking about when he was talking about this $15,000 you lost. I didn't know what the hell he was talking about, but he's entertaining to say the least. Terrence Crawford replied with a mellow video. This guy called you a crackhead in a mellow fashion. I don't know how he's promotable, but somehow people go to Terrence Crawford and they see something. I don't know what it is, but it's good for boxing. Terrence need to be probably more outspoken, judging from the pay-per-view numbers. It's good banner. It's good go back. So either way, whoever right or wrong, the fit's gonna determine one day if they ever get it on. That's who will win the battle.
I want to open up and just have a little discussion for everybody here. Yesterday, I believe it was 20th year anniversary of a now famous fight, one of the bigger upsets in the heavyweight division. Evander Holyfield Tyson 1 took place in Vegas. I'll go back to you on this, Scorsese. Looking back now, one, fact that it's 20 years ago means that I am old or getting old. Secondly, looking back now, your thoughts on that fight so many years later.
First of all, it's just like boxing never happens when it's supposed to, because that one didn't either. Um, and we see that in this age. As far as how the fight goes down, I was just shocked by Evander Holyfield in the fight. And when I go back and watch, because probably too young to really understand boxing then, but going back and seeing it the times I have, a man, you finally see a guy comfortable with letting Tyson punch first. He's slipping to the body, countering to the body. You see a man turning Tyson first on the ropes. I think the knockdown was the middle round, 56 rounds, a left hook. You see it, Tyson's left hook not being the shot no more. And not an excuse for Tyson. Not I partied over here, over there, Tyson. I didn't take you serious. This is Tyson that know he's going to the biggest fight of his life. And you just had a better fighter. You had Tyson getting knocked down. And I remember the same time he's getting knocked down, he's complaining about headbutts a minute later. No, it's not headbutts. It's a butt beating. This you standing straight up than you more straight than you ever stood in your life. And Evander Holyfield just being a better fighter. It's as simple as that. He proved it twice. The better man. One of the best heavyweights to do it. And this ain't the 6'5", 6'7" heavyweight. Probably 6'2", 6'1". Well, no, Tyson 5'11" for sure. Holyfield no more than what, 6'2"? I like it.
I'll go to you on this one, Gus. As you know, heading into the fight, folks was fearing for Holyfield, especially in the previous fight. He didn't look good against Bobby Chaz. He struggled against a guy, a cruiserweight, light heavyweight at best, and yet he proved everybody wrong, putting one of the finest performers, arguably the finest performers of his career. He dominated Tyson that night. He was the more physical guy than Tyson that night. He outboxed Tyson. Even on the inside, he fared well with Tyson, and I would argue got the better of him. He dominated in a way that no one saw.
Yeah, and just look at the gauntlet of fights, leading up to that Tyson fight. You talk about Bobby Chaz. Before that, it was Riddick Bowe. Before that, it was Ray Mercer. Before that, it was Michael Moorer, and before that, it was Riddick Bowe again. And the heavyweight division then, Mike. I remember that fight particularly well because it represented the biggest payday I actually received, because I actually bet on Evander Holyfield and I still remember it, and I still got the slip, £942 back.
That's over $1,000 US.
Yeah, back in '96.
Actually, over $11 US, $1,100 US.
I'm not sure what the exchange rate was back then, but it was. It might have even been sort of a pound to 1.6. I'm gonna have to look, but going into that fight, Mike, and it has a little bit of similarities now because the heavyweight division had become fractured. Certainly after when Mike Tyson had lost and had been incarcerated as well, we saw the titles being sort of split up, not having a unified champion. So eventually when Evander Holyfield actually won the titles, folks weren't giving him the level of respect because there was always that in the back of the mind. All right, you might have been the champion, you might have beaten Riddick Bowe, you might have beaten, Larry Holmes and Ray Mercer, etc., but you've not beaten Mike Tyson. So that was forever bugging him. And I know he definitely wanted to have the fight before Tyson was incarcerated. He really wanted that fight because he's saying, all right, fine, if I'm not getting the respect, I want that fight then. And it didn't happen. And we know when Mike Tyson came out of jail, he fought Frank Bruno for the WBC. So eventually, Holyfield, even having lost stuff against Moore, I think it was the WBA and the IBF, wasn't it? I think That was the fight where he lost and he was having those heart problems or breathing difficulties as well, which may
and the infamous video with him, quote unquote, being healed by Benny Hinn.
Yeah, so I think that the Tyson fight, I think it was for the WBA belt eventually. So, you know, Tyson at that time, I think he was what, 43 or 40, something like that, 43 or 44 fights into his career. You know, we saw before, I wouldn't say he's, but when a fighter was earning that sort of magnitude of money, we saw other events, you know, taking toll of his life, whether he's, and even, you know, we saw Teddy Atlas and whatever, you know, having issues with his, you know, his training facility, having fired so many people, bringing on other fighters, you know, so much chaos in his personal life. So coming into that fight, you know, that was probably the main reason why I said to myself, look, you know, he's just coming off an incarceration. Certainly didn't look right against Buster Douglas in Tokyo either. So I said to myself, you know what? Maybe it's just worth putting my bets on the Evander Holyfield, and, you know, odds were, you know, 28, 25, going up to like 30, 35 to 1, depending on sort of what bookies you chose in the UK. And I just felt Holyfield was a better boxer in the sense that a fighter who can fight. You know, Tyson, we know he had like incredible head movement, very, very good for a fighter who can negate fighters with significant height advantage. Certainly felt, you know, beautiful on the inside, but Holyfield to me was just a better boxer, even on the back foot as well. I felt he had the better chin. Certainly from when I saw him against Ray Mercer and the amount of punishment he was taking, you know, and Ray Mercer was a terrific fighter. So I just said to myself, you know, maybe Holyfield is just that more of a superior warrior. And yeah, I even put down money for even a stoppage as well. Maybe others are just, you know, a little bit optimistic, but yeah, thank God for Evander Holyfield, you know, changed my life certainly at that point.
And it was at that point that, to many folks, Daniel, Holyfield solidified himself as an all-time great. What do you remember? What is your favorite memory, I should say, looking back on that fight all these years later?
I have mixed feelings when it comes to that fight, in the sense that you brought it up, that yeah, that fight did solidify Holyfield as an all-time great, but it also pretty much made people forget all the success he had as a cruiserweight. He's among the all-time greatest champions in the cruiserweight division. But people forget that, not being because of this fight. Now, this fight was beautiful to watch, in the sense of the fact that it showed what it did was, yeah, it legitimately, thoroughly now put to bed the monster Mike Tyson aura that he had. And granted, yeah, there's speculation, because for years after that, maybe Evander may have been on the juice at the time, but he showed the speed to be the heavyweight. He showed the power to be the heavyweight. And ultimately, they say he showed the will to be a heavyweight. It was a really interesting fight. It was a fight where you can tell that Mike Tyson, for as dominant as he was in the 80s, as dominant as he was, he either his preparation, if his preparation is right, like it wasn't against Buster Douglas, or if he faces an opponent that is legitimately not scared of him, he may not come out successfully. And that, to me, that fight ultimately started Mike Tyson's steady decline in the heavy division. Yeah, he won some fights afterwards, but he never really beat Holyfield. And remember, that wasn't even supposed to be Holyfield for a while. That was supposed to be George Foreman. But luckily, the boxing gods intervened, and we got a really decent fight over. Now, granted, we all know what happened in the rematch. We all know what happened in the rematch. So, but it was a great fight, and ultimately, it's gonna have probably gonna be the signature fight of when Evander Holyfield gets enshrined first ballot into the Boxing Writers Hall of Fame, or to the International Boxing Hall of Fame. That's going to be the signature fight people are going to look into. But like I said, at the same time, I lament that people forget how great he was as a cruiserweight.
For me, I've mentioned how this officially made Holyfield a great fighter, but the thing I come away from all of this is that it permanently took away the invincibility from Mike Tyson, because yes, he lost to Buster Douglas, but even after that, there was still a level of invincibility and fear about him, even after the incarceration and the really no names he fought coming in. I mean, Peter McNeely, Buster Mathis Jr., Bruno, no disrespect to my UK fans, Bruce Seldon, that
worst heavyweight ever.
That whiff punch that he fell down from.
Yeah.
There was still a fear of Mike Tyson back then.
Bruce Seldon is basically the Charles Martin now.
And he goes in there. Nobody gave Holyfield a chance. And you could see from moment one, after I think maybe the first or second round, Tyson gave kind of Holyfield a shove, and Holyfield pushed him right back. You knew that, one, Holyfield wasn't scared. And you knew that something was different in this fight. When he knocked him down in round 5 with the left hook, uh-oh. And then from that moment on, looking back now, you could just see it building up and building up and building up, that fight. The headbutt, the cuts, the fact that at a certain point, the crowd started yelling, Holyfield, Holyfield, Holyfield. And when he beat him, when he hurt him at the end of, I want to say, the 10th round, and the way the crowd reacted, and then when he came out and stopped him in the 11th round, that the look when they panned around the crowd and the crowd was going wild. It was like, wow, OMG, he actually did it. This dude actually did it. He pulled off what was thought then as the impossible. So that right there is the lasting memories for me. At the time, just an unbelievable fight, maybe one of the more memorable performances of the last 30 years, maybe. And yeah, it cemented Holyfield as he is one of those dudes. Greatest cruiserweight ever, one of the greatest heavyweights ever. Yeah, that right there, that proved the real deal was the real deal, essentially. Let's move on, and since we're a little bit over time here, start closing down the show, previewing what's going to happen this weekend. I guess we got to talk about this fight. I go to you, Scorsese. I asked you about Angel Garcia's comments, let's just say, about Terrence Crawford, where his son Danny is fighting, let's just face it, a no-hoper, an easy win as far as I'm concerned, Samuel Vargas. it was panned when the bout was announced. I still say the only saving grace for this fight is that he is supposed, quote unquote, supposed to fight Keith Thurman April next year. But I guess since we got to talk about it, I'll go to you again, Scorsese. Your thoughts on this?
Hopefully that suppose is high, because when you see him making comments about Pacquiao and being asked questions about Pacquiao and Mayweather, it's like, man, I hope those two do fight so we could see the other prime welterweights get it on with each other instead of waiting to be picked. I don't know if the contract been signed, but I don't think they would do that. It is on the PBC page. Yeah. The scheduled fights, but as far as this Samuel Vargas fight, oh man, that's ridiculous. I'm just thankful that the card has a good fight, the Omar Douglas versus Javier Fortuna, and then you got
Jared Hurd
facing
Yeehaw.
former world. Yeah, so that, and Spike always produces. So I expect to see. I think they're gonna put all those cards on there. Don't mark my word on that. I hope they do. They don't. They normally do 2, don't they? Or have we got more from Spike?
I know they will do 2 for sure.
Yeah.
All 3, I'm not so sure.
Yeah, because I don't think they put Gervonta Davis when he knocked out some guy in the first round, and they had I think Broner was on Spike with Theo Payne that night, and they didn't put Davis on there, so I think it's a good chance. I don't know, man. Hurd's been on NBC, Fox, and one of those. I think they got to show him. The dude, he's fun. He's fun. So as far as Danny, he can, they can kick rocks with that fight. But those, I want to see the undercard.
Your thoughts, Gus?
Yeah, Mike. If it's in one respect, it's good to see a card back in Philadelphia, and if it's an opportunity for even Danny under his new promotional banner to try and showcase some of his fights, then so be it. Because I'm just really interested in the card. I'll probably watch it up to Jared Hurd. Just pull out the hashish and just forget about the Garcia. It doesn't do anything for me now. But generally,
pull out Chavez Jr. skunk.
Generally, when the PBC talk about a fight being made, and they've certainly talked about the Garcia Furman fight, I think historically it does tend to happen. So
yeah, I see that too. Yeah.
So yeah, you're gonna get. I guess the fight has to happen. More so, is it gonna happen? I think it will happen, and it has to happen. So if it leads to that, then fine. But yeah, I certainly won't be tuning into that fight. No.
Quickly, your thoughts, Daniel.
First of all, like I said, I let my fans be known again. I still think Angel Garcia is going to worm his way out of Danny fighting Thurman. I think they just agreed to it as a means to try to get this fight. But think about it. He's good. This Sammy Vargas is going to become the new Rod Salka. And until that, Rod Salka's got his fame because he was Danny Garcia's opponent.
No, that would never be another Rod Salka.
No, it will not. Nah.
He's gonna be the next Rod Salka. Watch.
I mean, at least Vargas is closer to Garcia's weight range here. Salka was a junior lightweight who they puffed up to junior welterweight to fight this dude, and then try to sanction it off as a world title bout.
And the way the knockout happened, it would never be another.
I mean, it doesn't piss me off as much as Trump winning, but it still pisses me off.
Oh yeah, well yeah, but that's the whole thing. That's what I've come to expect from Danny Garcia now. Legitimately, this is what I've come to expect. You fighting a series of opponents, and one of them just has to be so awful that the sanctioning bodies who love their fees won't even do that. So that's pretty much what it is. Now, if they put Jared Hurd on the actual TV deal, then yeah, I'll watch. Otherwise, no. I'm not wasting my time.
I gotta watch Fortuna, man. I gotta watch Fortuna.
That's your dude now. That's your dude.
And Douglas is he's proven to be pretty okay, but he getting mollywopped, man. He getting beat up. He gotta get beat up.
Fortuna, that's your dude, man.
Hey, I tell you what, as far as Danny, hey, Darren gonna have a problem. Danny ain't no pusher. Danny might do some true BS. I mean, he don't even just use the B and S. He spell it all the way out. Him and his camp is full of it. But the man can fight, man. I think he actually probably hit just as hard as Keith Thurman. Probably harder, just as hard or harder. I don't care what Robert Guerrero says, because Robert Guerrero is a bit of an idiot when it comes to the style. When he fought Keith Thurman, the man sit there and box. He sit there and let a puncher plant his feet and knock him around.
If Thurman establishes the jab and makes Danny Garcia come forward to him, it's easy work. It's easy.
Keith Thurman at the least is a fighter. He's a fighter. He's gonna want to be in that.
That's why I say if Thurman has to be disciplined.
Him hell, man. I'm telling you what. Either way, Danny Garcia is coming to fight, man. He comes to fight, bro.
Thurman would have to be disciplined, but if he is and he establishes the jab, because look at Garcia. He's a fighter who's at best mid-range out and he pot shots. That's all he does. He really doesn't have a great jab. And if Thurman establishes the jab on him, and especially if he makes him come forward and is disciplined all night, he beats him and beats him rather easy.
What Thurman wants to do though, he doesn't want to do it. I never just see him want to do that.
He's a hard head. I agree with you on that. He's a hard head.
We getting a scrap, and I really do think Danny Garcia is the harder puncher and probably the more durable as far as taking punishment. But I still favor Keith Thurman, but I can't wait for that match. Danny Garcia is something you can't stop watching.
You was going to say something, Gus?
Yeah, I was going to say that, Danny Garcia's motto about Swift is almost ironic because his feet are actually quicksand.
Yes.
Yeah. I think they're talking about more his hand speed there when it comes down to it, but even then, that's a little bit slower.
No, Danny got the hands, man. He got the hands, not the feet, but he got the hands. Danny cold, man. He
got Fred Flintstone feet, man.
No, that's the thing. Yeah, that his nickname comes from his hands. But the thing is, I know we keep mentioning if.
Man,
personally, I think I personally think that Danny himself would probably take all the fights that he can. His dad would just allow it. That's why I think his dad is going to worm his way out of this fight.
Put him in a position where he doesn't fight with his feet set. He's in trouble.
Yep.
He's easily beatable.
He styled on Guerrero all night, man. Guerrero was headhunt coming for him. He styled on that man.
That's Guerrero. That's Guerrero, who's also flat-footed.
8 rounds at a Keith Thurman fight. 8 round on. Keith Thurman didn't look no better than Danny Garcia from 8 round on. And Robert Guerrero, to me, he came forward 80% of the night versus Danny Garcia, and he styled on him. I mean, the man damn near looked like Floyd Mayweather on the back foot. I said, "What am I watching here?" He just had a new right hand. Look, man, you talking about this gonna be fire, iron on iron. Danny Garcia is not a punk. I see this man giving Keith Thurman hell.
I don't see it.
I just don't see the fight happening, Scorsese. Like I said, Angel's gonna worm his way out of it, and Danny's just gonna keep fighting easy people because
I agree with
because Angel. No, because remember, Angels has made it plain clear. It's all about maintaining that O. It's all about maintaining that O, and he'll do anything possible to get it.
I agree with Gus saying when the PBC does tell us this is next, it has happened. For all I know, I can't recall the time. 100% of the time when they say this is next, it go down. So, and then plus Heyman has probably got way more control than no Angel. If they still around, hopefully they still around the PBC or whatever. Yeah, I think it's happening. I think we're gonna get another welterweight showdown. Yo,
I'm a
Latin Goonie.
I mean, we will see, but I would just say this is all relative because neither of them going to fight Errol Spence. Neither one of them. Neither one of them.
Yeah, none of them are getting near that.
Kell Brooks job. Kell Brooks say he up for the task.
Scorsese,
Huh?
When is Richard Comey fighting Shafikov? Because that's the fucking fight of the year, man. When's that happening?
I don't think they did. They go to purse bid. Damn, I think they went to purse bid already, and it's been
Yep.
one.
Yep.
It's
They
been
did.
one. They going overseas, I believe.
Yep.
I'll tell you a potential fight of the decade, man. It's Denis Shafikov and Zlatan.
Yeah, I see that
Zlatan,
all
man.
the time.
Two
Oh, good
front
Jesus.
foot,
All the
two
time.
front southpaw warriors who will just absolutely blitz it out, man. That is gonna if that ever happens, that will be the fight of the decade.
I'm just happy that Comey's getting another big fight
Yeah.
because my fear was that there are certain fighters who look too good for their own good. They go up against a really good guy, and even in defeat, they look so good that they don't get another opportunity for a big fight again because they scare the hell out of everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at that fight with Comey and Robert Easter, one of the fights of the year for 2016, Easter edged it out, but Comey looked so good that he looked like he could give any of the top fighters of 135 hell.
Yeah,
And I'm just right. And I'm just glad he's getting another opportunity. So
you know who I feel
Oof.
sorry for? I feel sorry for Shafikov. Like those IBF rankings, I talked about him so long. If you beat this guy who's probably 4 or 5 inches on you, then you go fight a guy who's 7 inches on you. It's like get a man a damn break.
No, man, no. Damn it, because you have me thinking about Shafikov and Salichin right now. That fight will literally be murder on TV.
Yeah,
That will be the fight. I'll tell you now.
I haven't said it on here. I haven't said it on this show. I don't think I have. But Letitia is knocking Mikey Garcia the hell out.
I agree.
And that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
When it was first announced, I think we talked about it a couple of weeks ago. I said this is a sleeper. This is an underrated real good fight.
Montenegrin midget, I'll tell you.
And
It is.
Yeah, those two right there, Letitia and Shafikov, put them in the ring. Shafikov don't do nothing, but I mean, as far as just losing to somebody, it's the best every time, or it's something. You know, the Vasquez fight ain't gonna hold it against him. Vasquez was hell. If he could ride the man's back for 12 rounds, he would have did that. And I want to say, no, it wasn't Tony Weeks again that night, but
No, I think that was Kenny Bayless.
It wasn't that night, but that man come to fight, man. I gotta respect the dude that looked like a damn 118-pounder fighting at 135 and getting it on with anybody who's the best. I wouldn't be fighting no damn Comey if I'm 4 feet short. Shit, no.
Let's move on and talk about the return of Luis Ortiz. He's fine. He's signed with Eddie Hearn and Matchroom. I'll go to you on this one, Gus. Coming back against Malik Scott in Monte Carlo. It's going to be aired live on HBO here in the States. Thoughts about Ortiz, the return against Malik Scott, as well as the promotional deal he signed with Matchroom.
Good to see him back because a heavyweight fighter with that sort of talent and ability really needs to be showcased. So, great for folks all around the world to see him. And, credit to Malik Scott. He took the fight. Apparently, he even requested that he wanted Luis Ortiz. But boxing is secondary to Malik Scott. He prefers selling cigars and banging beautiful women. That's his full-time occupation. So, such a talented fighter, and it's a pity, with him because you saw him early on. He had, not only the ability to fight on the front back foot, but he had very good hand speed, punch accuracy. And you thought, maybe he can do something with his life. But sadly, never had the desire, never had the focus or the motivation. So his career is just sort of dwindled past, and he's fighting, on cards here and there. I guess it's only his ability. And we saw, with that Deontay Wilder, that disgrace because, he clearly took a dive in that fight. It wasn't a punch that floored him in Puerto Rico. I don't know what the hell happened there, but so what sort of Malik Scott are we gonna get for this fight, Mike? it could be somebody who goes down with the first big left hand, first big right left hand combination punch on the inside. So a Carlos Takam, that fight was originally going to be made. That to me was the better fight, because somebody of a more of a physically imposing heavyweight is certainly a lot more durable as well. That would have been the better fight, but obviously he's opted for the old French showdown with Johan Duhaupas. So Malik Scott steps in. It's a little gift from Eddie Hearn, to say welcome to the matchroom. Then he'll bring him to London, and then he'll probably feed him a Dominic Brazil or somebody. He seems to have all these options with Al Heyman. So much cannon fodder for his fighters. So
feed him a Dillian White.
Whoa, Dillian has got his hands full at the moment. Did you see that thing with Derek Chisora?
Yeah.
No comment on that. And what Chisora's been saying, no comment.
Tell him his breath stink. When I was in there, man, your breath stink, man.
Yeah. Well, the problem with that fight has been spearing from the fact when they actually bought Dylan when he was back in the amateurs, when he was still in mixed martial arts. Apparently, when they just brought him literally off the streets when Derek Chisora, I think, was British champion at the time, threw him in the ring with Derek, and I think he gave Derek a good little working over. So them two have been sort of beefing from back then. So
I heard he got busted up the first time, and then later in life he got a little better with Chisora in there. That was what I'm hearing, but
Go ahead.
First encounter I'm actually hearing, I'm not sure. It's always very, very hard to get sources, but a reliable source that I've heard from, who's actually certainly involved in that camp over in Brixton, told me that he sparred 6 rounds straight with Chisora first of all, and didn't get floored or anything. He actually competed very well. That's all I heard.
Somebody probably saying you tell this and they gonna tell that, and then I can see that either way. But I disagree on Malik Scott. I think he coming to fight, man. I think he coming to put on.
Look. He was embarrassed in that fight with Deontay Wilder. He needs to show up just to restore any kind of reputation. That alone should make him come to fight.
Tony Thompson, that fight with Tony Thompson, the guy coming forward nightly. How many rounds Tony Thompson go with Ortiz? Was it 8?
6, I think. 5 or 6.
And this is coming off, a good week, and people really got a good week training. I believe he had a week, and people weren't impressed with Ortiz. And I would say myself, I really wasn't looking at. Maybe it was the Oscar Valdez effect. He had prey in front of him. But I don't think Malik Scott is prey. I think he's a guy who can sit on the rope, see shots coming. Like Gus said, just about everything he named, he does it. He's a long opponent. Hey, I don't think he's crossing that water just to play games over there. I really don't. I really don't.
Your thoughts on this, Daniel?
Well, Luis Ortiz. Well, anytime Luis Ortiz fights is going to be a showstop. It's going to be a good main event. Malik Scott, yes, kind of being fed to the wolves. You haven't heard much of him since he was accused of taking a dive against Deontay Wilder in Puerto Rico. But it's going to be an interesting fight. Luis Ortiz is going to try to show out. And it's true, he's going to come on Anthony Joshua undercard right afterwards, not even a month into it. So Aaron Hearn's going to keep him active, but keep this in mind, though. He is also no longer the WBA interim champion. So now with Klitschko Joshua being sanctioned, he's also no longer in the way of Anthony Joshua. And Gus, you can correct me on this, but I specifically think Eddie Hearn signed Luis Ortiz to make sure he never steps foot in the ring with Anthony Joshua.
Yeah, it was a combination of two. That and he was. I think Eddie Hearn almost knew that the titles would be either relinquished or stripped, but in the end, he voluntarily relinquished it. So it's a way for Eddie Hearn to sort of monopolize the belts. He thought that maybe Ortiz would target him more with the WBA, but ultimately, it's to keep him away. But actually, Joshua's actually been speaking this week about potentially even fighting Luis Ortiz. He said he certainly said eventually that they may have to dance. So he's not against it. But yeah, I think it was a strategic move by Eddie Hearn to keep him well away from Joshua. Personally, yeah.
Not only that, well, luckily this does open up the avenue for Ortiz Wilder. Now that fight I would love to see.
They'll make Ortiz, Josh. They'll make Wilder Joshua first.
They'll do a trilogy in that one, yeah. Personally.
Man, Wilder better come back and do something because he can't be risking those fragile hands no more. I don't think he come back and
Wilder
play.
is going to be Wilder's going to be ringside in it for the Joshua fight, so I think he'll probably announce something then.
Yeah, I heard that. I didn't know if that was definite, but I heard that rumor.
They need to forget not risking Joshua. He whooping anybody. Put him in the ring. He whooping them. There you go. Tell him I said. About these old heavyweights, man. He whooping ass over there, man. Put him in the ring. That dude ain't to be played with, man.
And I think since we running a little bit over for time, we're going to shut the show down on that note. I'm going to go around and hang out here. Since it's been a while, you've been on here, Scorsese. For those who want to talk sweet science or anything else that the folks know where can find.
Twitter at oh shit.
You forgot it again, man.
Scorsese, are you still allowed on Twitter, my friend?
Yeah. I'm there. I just know I'm the YouTube.
Milo.
Yeah, we're gonna do
Mr.
debate. I do
Community
debates
Strikes.
on YouTube. I do anything on YouTube from time to time. So YouTube, low place, hashtag MLPF, and the Twitter is at my low place. There we go. I mean, I don't never type it in, people. I don't never search for myself. So come on, man, give me a break.
Gus from Corruption and Boxing for folks who want to talk to sweet science or music. Let the folks know where they can hit you up.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Great show as always. So, folks, thumbs up, comment. We want comments on iTunes, Google Play, please. It's a tremendous show Mike's running there. So,
thank you.
People. Yeah, folks who want to talk boxing, catch me, Corruption in Boxing, Skype, YouTube. Currently working on the website. Hopefully early part of the next year. Involved in a lot of music journalism. Do a lot of reviews for electronic music, specifically techno, but also old school music as well, funk, jazz, soul, Motown, roots, reggae, you name it. I write for Juno and Beatport as well. I do reviews for their websites. I've got a show on YouTube under Covert Operative. I've got over 500-600 videos there, so hook me up on there as well.
Indeed. Daniel Carper of the Inscriber for folks who want to talk boxing or the NBA, specifically the Miami Heat. Sorry to get your Heat loss to Chicago tonight. Let the folks know where they can find you.
Yeah, well, it was actually a good loss. It was not. It wasn't the blowout people thought it was going to be. But at least Coach Post admitted he should have had UD in the game. But they say you can find me on Twitter, Ruckus99. I have been on a long hiatus from the Inscriber magazine, but I should be back in, luckily, because the end of the year is looking really good for boxing. And like I said, the Heat aren't as bad as people think. A lot of their losses are really, really close, including this one. So they're not as terrible as people may think, but it's going to be a long road for the home team.
Thank everybody for being on this evening. For folks who want to talk boxing or anything else with me, you know what it is. Brother JR on Twitter, at Brother JR76 on Twitter. Again, as I said earlier to begin the show, for folks who want to find out all things Pound for Pound Boxing Report, check out the blog page, P4PBoxingReport.wordpress.com. You look to the right of the blog page, you will find links to where to find all our pages throughout social media, Facebook page, the Tumblr page, the G Plus page, as well as our Twitter page, and the YouTube channel, I should say, and also links to find us on, to listen to us, I should say, on Google Play Music, on Twitter, on SoundCloud. Also listen to us on player.fm. On the next episode, we will do a recap of Ortiz, Malik Scott. We will do a recap of Garcia and Vargas, and we will talk about drum beats, the fight of the year, in my opinion, for 2016. Andre Ward, Sergey Kovalev, pay-per-view is finally here. It's going down. I'm pumped up already. I can't wait for it. We will do a big preview episode talking about that fight. We going hard in the paint. Clarissa Shields, she's making her pro debut on the undercard. Isaac Chilemba's fighting on the undercard. Curtis Stevenson's fighting on the undercard. But that's all secondary. The big fight, Kovalev Ward, the winner should be named #1 pound for pound fighter in the world. We'll do an in-depth preview show of that. So for Scorsese, for Gus and corruption in boxing, for Daniel, I'm your host, Michael. This has been episode 145 in Pound for Pound Boxing Report. I'm gonna go on, try to get over this Trump win. Listen to this new Tribe Called Quest. I want to see a review of that new Tribe album, Gus. By the way, wink, wink, nod, nod. Let's just say the music pusher is struck. I've heard it early. Yeah, it's really good. So I want to see a review from you, Gus, on that. So I'm gonna get over this Trump win. I'm gonna listen to this Tribe. Episode 145, Pound for Pound Box Report. Y'all have a good evening. Good night.
Peace.